Happy Monday, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you had a super weekend and that you're well rested and you feel great about the week and great about today's show, actually. We're talking about a story of recovery, of resilience, and of learning to love yourself once again after going through turbulence. Our guests today are two phenomenal women who went through drug addiction and came out of it stronger on the other side. But before I intro them, I want to start off by celebrating our MCM for today. You guys know, Mondays, you know what's up. We start off or we end off by celebrating a man who has done incredible things. And our MCM today is lawyer Alan Maleche, who was awarded the prestigious 2018 Elizabeth Taylor Human Rights Awards for his role in advancing human rights in the HIV and AIDS field at the opening ceremony of the 22nd International AIDS Conference in Amsterdam. During his tenure as Executive Director at Kenya Legal and Ethical Issues Network, that's KELIN, he also led a team that litigated a landmark case against forced sterilization of women living with HIV. And for that, we celebrate you today. Congratulations to you. You've done phenomenal things, and we honor you for that. Now, today's topic is, like I said earlier, is one of resilience and coming back stronger than ever from a place that was quite dark and scary. And our guests today, we've got Sylvia, Valerie, and Wangu, Waigwa. Yeah. But you also earlier said I can call you Corey, so I'm going to call you Corey for the show. And first and foremost, let's start with a quick fact, and that is, according to NACADA, 18.2% of Kenyans aged 15 to 65 years are currently using at least one drug or substance abuse. So that means there's a lot of people out there who are struggling with this right now and probably aren't able to open up to family and friends, and are trying to fight and claw their way out of this dark space. But I want us to start from the very beginning. Maybe let's start with you, Corey.
Okay.
Tell me about your childhood.
I was born a chubby girl.
A chubby baby with the rolls. That's usually the best. When you have like the...
It's like babies everybody likes, right?
Oh, so cute.
Like if your baby is not chubby, there's something wrong. So I've been one of those babies. My mom says I was overweight since I was 9 months old. So, and that's how I've been up until today. So I've grown up a chubby baby. It was good and it had its bad side. For me, it's growing up knowing that I'm different than other kids, because I was bigger, so running was a challenge, playing hopscotch, skipping rope, which I did, but I didn't keep up with them.
Right. Are any of your family members also curvy? And
No.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, I was the biggest in my family.
Yeah.
Well, amongst my siblings. So I've always grown up different, and for me, it became a challenge now when I got into adolescent, because now you get to that place as a girl, and boys are looking at other girls, they're not looking at me.
Yeah.
And that started my struggle with accepting myself, because I've grown up looking different, people seeing me as different. In school, the teachers, I would get a different desk, I would get, I would sit probably at the back, at the corner, because of, So yeah, that is what for me contributed to...
Right. The feeling of being ostracized.
Yeah.
But with that, like even with the sitting at the corner, was that something that you chose to do, or did you feel like you were placed there?
I felt like I was placed
Okay,
there.
that the people around you were, ostracizing
yeah,
you. Okay.
So I grew up knowing that there's something wrong with me. So as I remember, at about the age maybe of 12, 13 thereabout, I went on the internet and I looked for ways to lose weight because that's, for me, that's the key thing. And I remember, I think I saw in a movie or read online, I can't really remember, that if you drink hard liquor, you can start losing weight.
Oh my goodness, no.
Yeah.
The internet.
Yeah.
Oh, the internet can be great, but it can be a terrible place, especially if you're young and you're not really sure where it
of yourself.
Yeah, of yourself,
Yeah.
and what information to take in, or which ones to just sieve out.
Yeah.
And what about you, Sylvia? How was your childhood? And did you also face the same kind of isolation in any way?
Well, almost. I grew up with both parents. Our siblings, I mean, I had 3 siblings, and we're all taken care of financially. Though in primary school, I felt I was a bit shy, and I had self-esteem issues about my height. I felt like I didn't really fit in.
Wow. Okay, it's interesting that you both felt uncomfortable in your sense of self and your physicality. And that's what drew you further away into I guess, the addiction. And yet at the same time, things like height is celebrated, things like curves is celebrated, right? You see these girls trying to get the body, but it's funny, as a child, all you see is, this makes me different, this makes me stand out.
And children are they're very unforgiving because children laugh at you.
Children
Children
can be
call
cruel.
you names.
They can be cruel.
They're very cruel.
So at which point then, and let me start with you now, Sylvia, at which point did you first have your first encounter with drugs?
Well, from the minibar at home, I'd steal alcohol. It wasn't noticed. And by the time I joined high school, I actually chose to join a clique of friends. And I started to use socially. But by the time I was in pre-university, away from home, I started to be more curious to know more about these drugs, and I started trying now other things.
Besides alcohol?
Besides alcohol.
Like, what kind of drugs were you using at the time?
Marijuana. I tried it in all forms.
Okay.
Eventually, I was now smoking cigarettes and ecstasy when I'd go out to the clubs.
Okay. And was that your way of trying to feel like you're fitting in? Because you talked about being shy? Or?
Yeah, and get some confidence. Yeah.
Okay. And what about you, Koi?
Well, mine was progressive because the internet said I could drink and lose weight.
Internet.
And I drank just like how, steal alcohol from the minibar.
And your parents didn't notice?
No.
Interesting.
Then again, if you smoke a pack of cigarettes a day, you can lose weight. So I got into cigarettes. So I started smoking. So, and nothing really changed for me. Not a gram less than what I weighed. In fact, if anything, I was still growing bigger and bigger. So what happened in high school, because I was already drinking and smoking, this gave me a sense of identity. Now I felt accepted because I could show people I could hook you up.
Oh.
Yeah. So I taught my peers how to drink.
Right. So they were coming to you.
Yeah.
And suddenly you were like, okay, let me tell you.
Yeah. Before it was,
okay,
we wouldn't want to play with you, first of all, you can't run.
Yeah.
And now it's, that's the coolest girl in school, because I was the one who was always getting into trouble.
Yeah. And you felt like, at the time, the drugs and the alcohol made you cool. Yeah. That's what made you.
For me, that was it. That was bottom line. That's what it made me.
Yeah.
So.
And Sylvia, at the time, did you know or did you understand that you were using the drugs or the drinking to escape something?
I was using them to fit in and belong somewhere.
Okay.
But,
and you understood that then? You knew that this was what you were doing?
I knew it was what I was doing, but by the time I was older enough, my friends would tell me, you're so beautiful, you should try modeling. And when they took me to a model agency, they told me I'm a plus-size model. And I said, to myself, I said I wanted to be a ramp model, you know,
Yeah.
and that's when I decided now to take all those drugs as well as slimming pills.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow. And Corey, how did the addiction or the drinking affect how you interacted with the world, specifically in high school? And also, did anyone notice, any family members at this time, did they notice what was going on?
Well, for me in high school, well, I got in a lot of trouble.
Okay.
So I went from school to school.
Okay.
My parents didn't know because they thought I was just involved with the wrong people and it was a stage. And that's what I was comfortable. You guys think that's fine. So that's what they thought. So they didn't know. They thought that it's a stage that I'm going through. It's an adolescent stage. And again, it's my friends, the kind of friends I'm keeping. And the kind of friends I kept because of my weight. I looked older than I was. So I had made friends who are older than me.
Okay.
So by the time I'm in high school, I have friends who've already finished.
Yeah.
So even in terms of progressing from the drinking to the smoking to start using drugs, it was more of an introduction by now my older friends.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Who now introduced me to that. So by the time actually I was done with high school, I'd already lost track as to why I started in the first place. Because now I was hooked as opposed to I'm trying to lose weight. In fact, I think I remembered now at the end.
Yeah. Like, wait a second. This is probably not where I started, but this is what's happening now.
Yeah.
And for you, Sylvia, were you able to continue studying and function normally, especially when you were in university, while you were still doing the drugs and taking alcohol as well?
Well, I'd skipped class severally, and the fact that I was doing art and I was quite good in art, it was able to cover up for me skiving classes and spending most of the time having parties while in the hostel.
Yeah.
The pocket money that my parents would send to me, I'd actually use to buy more and more of those drugs, as well as the model agency. When I'd get to go through for the auditions, I'd have some money on me, so I was able to use. By the time I came back, my grades were quite okay, so it wasn't yet alarming.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And your parents at this point still didn't suspect a thing?
Not
So
really.
you didn't have the same kind of problem of having to change schools because of getting into trouble?
Not at all.
And at this stage now, let's say uni, and at this point, is it high school?
Yeah.
Would you say that you were addicted to the drugs and the alcohol at that point, or to drugs?
Well, for me, the alcohol and the cigarettes, yes. But the drugs, I came to pick them up properly after I was done with school.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you, Sylvia?
I'd do it on weekends.
Yeah. Okay.
But I wasn't addicted
Okay.
yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still shocked that your parents couldn't tell. And I guess a part of me is also trying to understand how then parents can be a little bit more aware or involved, how to help them out in that sense. Was there no time where they could smell the cigarettes, or they were like, why are you staggering and not walking? Or did they not see it, or did they see it and try and talk to you and you tried to like say, no mom, no dad, it's nothing, it's just my friends?
Well, I think for me, because, well, to be honest, at a point I really didn't care. So even
Okay.
if they saw or not.
Yeah.
But throughout high school, what I know is that they didn't. One, because I was a bit smart about it. So I would, when it's about time for me to go home, I would probably chew on some mints, clear my breath. Then when I get home, I just shower and get into bed.
Right.
So in terms of them, they didn't know because they just thought I have the wrong company, and it's an adolescent stage. Yeah.
And what about you, Sylvia?
The mint and shower thing, very true.
Mint and shower
guys,
thing. Let me tell you, I'm just gonna have a ban in the house. You do not take mints. You come into the house and I want to smell your breath.
But also I'd be able to escape them realizing, because I'd go out on weekends to friends' houses and I'd do my
Sleepovers.
stuff away from home.
Okay, okay. Well, we have to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll delve more into these ladies' stories and understand how they got out of the addiction. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, we have been chatting to Wangu Waigwa, who I now call Kwe, and Sylvia Valerie about their journey into drugs. And the first part, they were sharing how they snuck, got away with it and would sneak in moments here and there while they were still under their parents' roofs. And now I want to understand, when you were now, say, on your own, maybe you left the house and were living on your own, how did the drug use escalate, and how did it affect you and your daily functioning?
For me, well, I can go to immediately after high school. That's when for me went wild. Now I got into the hard drugs.
And by hard drugs, what were you taking?
She mentioned ecstasy. When you go out to the clubs, you'd find cocaine, heroin. It just depends. On it gets to a point where whatever is available, you take. So that's when it really progressed. It progressed. I lost a lot of friends, especially the ones who I was in school with, because they proceeded on into university. I didn't.
Was it because of the drugs that you didn't?
One, I ran away from home.
Okay.
Yeah, and two, yeah, because of that.
Yeah.
I didn't.
And where were you living?
With friends.
Okay.
Because, well, you tend to make friends who are just like you. I want to make friends with you if you're not using what I'm using, because you know you judge me, so I don't want that.
Yeah.
So I would make friends, and there are places where, I don't know if they exist today, but there are houses that they're like drug dens that you stay there, you sleep, whatever you want to do, and you can stay there even a whole year.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And you, Sylvia, how did it escalate now from uni? Because it seems like in uni you were only using on weekends, so it's almost like you sort of managed it. How did it then escalate to full-on addiction?
Okay. By the time I got back from South Africa,
that's where you were studying.
Yeah.
Uni. Okay.
My dad was not so well.
Okay.
And I figured not to go back to South Africa, and I opted to stay here. And I joined a university that's in Westlands.
Yeah.
That was the perfect place to be able to do all the stuff I do, at the same time get ticked into the register that I've been in school.
Oh,
so
okay.
my use escalated.
Yeah.
And by third year, my dad passed away, and I had to drop out. Now this came as a huge bang to me. So I was using now to comfort myself and to escape from reality. I wanted to be numb.
Okay.
Yeah. Eventually I joined my mom in business.
Okay.
And then someone happened to con me quite a lot of money. Now I didn't know how to deal with that because I was away from home as well. And that's when I detached myself from my family. I just switched off my SIM card, my phone. I destroyed my SIM card, and I just declared that I'm alone in this life.
What? So I'm sure your mom must have been devastated and must have tried to find you. Did she at any point manage to contact you, or did you just fall off the radar?
Indeed, she did. Relatives would tell her we've met Sylvia and what's happening, and she'd tell them, please, when you see her again, tell her to kindly come home, because I was already pregnant at that time, and she said, she needs a lot of care. Tell her to come home. Whatever's happened, that's not a big deal. Tell her to come home.
Yeah, and did she know you were using drugs?
Not yet, because I was already using while pregnant, but by the time I got home, I was able to use, and she wasn't able to figure out that I was using. Yeah.
At the time, and let's even go back to now when you've dropped out of high school for you, Koi. At the time, was there anything in your life that would have given you a sense of hope or a reason to fight? Was there any source of hope for you in all of this?
At that particular
Yeah.
time, no. One, I felt like everybody had given up on me. I'd lost friends, so there was no hope,
Yeah.
really. And I think at that point you ask yourself, what for anyway? What for? And you see, for me, from my family point of view, is because I'd given them so many promises. This is the last time. I'm gonna do this
So at
now.
this point, they knew what was happening,
So
and they had
this point
tried
they knew
to
about it.
take you out.
Also, I'd gotten into trouble a lot of times, you know, getting arrested a lot because of, you know, drugs are expensive and I'm not home and I don't have a job. So you con people money, you sell every electronic that you find.
Yeah.
Just to keep up with your addiction.
And prison didn't scare you? You were like, meh,
like,
been here before. How many
Yeah.
times did you go?
to police cells, I cannot count. But eventually I got to Langata Women's Prison and I was there for a month.
And that, even that didn't shock you into reality? That didn't
At that
make you
point,
think,
you think about it and you're like, at this age, really, I was 21, maybe,
yeah.
thereabout. And yeah, at that point you think, do I really need to be here? All my peers are in university, they're studying. Why am I here? But unfortunately, in such institutions is that you meet people who train you to be better.
Oh gosh, okay, I
So when
hear
you
you.
come out, you're better and smarter.
Yeah. You know how to not get caught. You know how to steal better or steal more.
Yeah.
Okay. And what about you, Sylvia? Did you talk about being pregnant and you were still using the drugs? Did at any point did you feel like, maybe this should be my moment to stop? Was there any kind of conflict within you?
I tried, but now because I was hooked to heroin and cocaine now at this point, nothing was more important than using this drug.
Right.
And I remember my family tried to take me to rehab. I was in rehab already 5 other times.
Okay.
And it wasn't working. So for me, I'd even lost hope on myself. I just thought, I'm just born to use. I'd given up totally.
You know, I actually read something recently that stuck with me, and that is a lot of times people assume that, you know, addicts could just stop, but they don't understand that there's actually a problem, and that you don't just treat it as like, just stop, just quit, just leave, but there's also like a mental shift and a chemical imbalance almost that just makes it incredibly difficult to just stop, because you know, it's an addiction. And so Sylvia, at this point, then where are you living and what are you doing? Now you're pregnant, you're still using, you can't feel like you can stop. Where?
At this
what's
point,
happening? In your
I've
life?
gotten the first child, and basically I left him at home with my mom to take care of, and I went back to the life that I was just using.
Were you working at the time?
Not exactly, but I was figuring out ways on how I'm getting money to use.
Okay.
By the time I had the second child, the water broke when I was in a police cell because of shoplifting. I had been to prison so many times, and by the time I got out, I'd still go back into these drugs. So basically, I just thought there's nothing else left to do than just use. But eventually, I came to realize that addiction isn't really a disease, it's actually sinful nature. So I realized that when I was in the street, I learned so many survival skills, like on how to rob people and do it without having to feel anything. I was just basically numb. Yeah.
Okay. What was the lowest point for you, Koi, through this whole journey?
I woke up one day. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know the people who were around me.
Was it in a house or?
And it was in a house.
Okay.
And for me, that's when it dawned on me, what do I have to do with this life? In fact, that same day, someone passed on in the house out of an overdose.
Wow.
So that was, I can say that was my lowest point. Yeah.
And was that the moment where you started to find your way out of it?
That is the moment where I knew I needed now to stop.
Okay.
For me.
Yeah, for you. Okay.
And it didn't stop immediately, because now what I did is that now I took the cycle back to the beginning. So I stopped on the drugs, but still drunk, still smoked. So I just went back, cutting them off slowly.
Yeah. And you, Sylvia, what was your lowest point?
When I looked around, because now I'd become a street girl, and most of the people who I was in the street were getting killed or being mobbed by the people, by the citizens, and some would dry up like on overdose while on the street. And I just looked around and I said, God, no, this is not for me. And that's when, around 2016, October, I'd been fasting, and I happened to be in the papers because of the fracas that I caused on Parliament Road. And that's...
How so? How did you end up in the papers?
I ended up in the papers because after fasting, my mental stability wasn't so good. So
Okay.
I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
Until now, I don't really know.
Yeah.
But the caption said, no risk is too big for her. And
Okay.
I was just praying in front of these cars, and I'd given up on stealing, I'd given up on everything else, and this time I was now collecting plastics in the streets and trying to look for a way on how to survive without having to be on the wrong side of the law.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's when 5 other people on the street, they acted as good Samaritans, and they took me to Mathare Mental Hospital.
Okay. Why were you fasting?
I'd had it with using.
Okay.
I'd gone so many times to rehab for my family or for my children or for other people apart from myself. And this time I wanted to change from me, for me.
Okay. And Koi, how many times did you go to rehab? Now, you know, especially specifically from the lowest point, when you thought, you know what, I need to find my way out of this. How many?
I'd actually gone to rehab before my lowest point.
Oh, before.
Yeah.
So did you
even
go
in
after?
rehab, you come out smarter.
Okay.
You come out knowing even more drugs that didn't exist and even where to get them.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and in fact, even the people who I went to rehab, it was the same thing, because even in the rehab, because I stayed for 90 days, you find ways to get high in the rehab.
In rehab.
In rehab. So it's a 90-day that sometimes they just pass you. You're like, I've been here 3 months. What has been happening?
Right.
Yeah, because we found ways on how to continue
Okay.
using.
Okay. And do you think that there's something that your family or your close friends or society could have done that could have brought you out of it sooner? Do you think that there's anything that maybe wasn't tried or tested that you think, you wish, if this had happened, I think it may have changed the course of my life?
Well, I wish that there would be more forums for me to be able to be educated more on this, because in school we learn about the basic harm of drugs and everything, but I wish there would be more forums for me to be able to connect with, so that even as I was in high school or university, I'd be able to relate more and be able to make my own choices out of this. Yeah.
For me, I could say probably is that I wish they really listened to me. not only my family, because my family tried their very best, because for them it is, what is it?
Yeah.
What is the problem?
Yeah.
But it's ridiculous when you're telling someone that the problem is because I don't accept myself, and everyone's like, what's that?
What does that mean?
What does that
Just
even mean?
accept then.
Yeah, then just accept that, and let's move on and get yourself out of this mess. So I think, well, for me, it's just seek to understand the person and where they're coming from. Because look at her, was height. Look at me, it's weight.
Yeah.
It's all different things.
Yeah.
But it's the one thing, because someone will look and say, oh, height, you're just tall, everyone's fat, everyone's
And those are
thin.
the ones that are walking the runways. They're stunning, beautiful, and you just are like, what are you talking about? I wish I was taller.
Yeah.
And curves too.
Yeah,
you're like,
and now
what?
the small things like that people take for granted, that could be is a problem.
Yeah.
And just minimizing your problem.
Right, but it's what ends up building
yeah.
and becoming this huge issue many years later.
Yeah.
We have to take a quick break, but when we come back, we dive into their road to recovery and how they got to where they are today. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back. We have been talking to Corey and Sylvia about their drug addiction, and now we want to understand how you pulled yourselves out of this dark space. Sylvia, how long have you been sober now?
Okay, I don't seem to count, but almost 2 years.
Okay.
It's not over.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. That's amazing. And what were the specific steps that you took to bring you out of the addiction?
Okay. First of all, let me give credit to God. Secondly, self-will. The point that I reached that I really wanted to change for myself, as well as my cousin, who took me out of where I was and still loved me even when I was unlovable, and happened to take me to this rehabilitation center called Teen Challenge Kenya, the 1-year Christian discipleship program. It's a faith-based solution for the drug epidemic. That's where I got this comfort from the people who are there, who accepted me just the way I was. Yeah.
And your cousin, did you feel like he was there for you at a time when everyone else had been like, Sylvia, that's it.
Yes, people had washed their hands.
Okay.
They were really, really tired.
Yeah.
They tried so hard and nothing was seeming to work. So people had just reached the point where they're just like, okay, enough, fine.
Enough, enough is enough. We've had it. And what about you, Corey? How long have you been sober?
5 years. Yes, that's
wow.
Since 2013.
Okay.
The road to recovery is a very lonely one, because for me, I packed up. I don't even remember if I had stuff or not, and I just went back home.
Wow.
I remember.
Were you nervous about that?
Yeah, but now I got to a point. Say, if they want to kill me, chase me, that's fine. I've been through it all.
Yeah,
like, it's fine.
Yeah.
And I did get home, and they just looked at me, and just like I can say, it's the power of God in my life that has really helped me out of it. Because, to be honest, they have tried, I don't know what step programs, I don't know what programs they've tried. But for me, I will say it takes the power of God in your life to break that, because it's not simple. It's not a program that will do it for you. It's something else that will do it for you and for me, and just like it's the power of God that on my life that has been able to deliver me from addiction. And it was not easy. From the many times I said, okay, this is the last time.
Right.
So it's almost like, where are you going? What time will you be back?
Oh, so they really had to quiz you.
And when you come back, because they don't know what to expect. They really don't know what to expect. They don't know. So and that is very discouraging, because you know, in myself, I'm like, I know I have stopped. So when someone is suspecting you, it doesn't make it easier for you.
But I can also understand why.
Yeah,
Because
you-
if they've
you do.
done this so many times, and you've been
Million
like, yes, yes,
times.
mom,
Today,
yes, dad,
like
yes,
today
auntie,
I'm done.
yeah.
But tomorrow, the next day, tomorrow,
You just
you're
know
back at
you're just
it.
going to be smarter about hiding it. So they're just worried
They're
about
just
you.
being human.
Yeah, and they love you. And
Yeah.
were there moments where you, especially at the beginning of your recovery, were there moments that you relapsed?
No. When I joined the center, I was still on the meds from the mental institute. But the following day, I took a step of faith and I said, I'm not taking these drugs anymore. And from that day, I realized I need to start taking my problems to Jesus. By the time I was 10 days old in the program, of course, I went through sleepless nights. I just decided to give my life to Christ. I experienced total peace.
Wow, wow. And what about you, Koi? Were there any moments where you relapsed?
No, but the thoughts and the urges, they're very strong.
Yeah.
Well, for me, especially over the weekend, is when it will be harder. Because, you know, over the week, I'll be like, okay, I can do one thing here, I can keep myself busy. But the weekends are the ones that are quite difficult. I did, in the beginning, I did relapse on cigarettes a bit. But one day I said, if I want to stop, I have to stop. I cannot be stopping. And then I'm like, oh, cigarettes is not so bad.
Yeah.
No, if I had to
Everything.
stop and
So
stop.
nothing, no cigarettes, no
Yes,
sips of
so I
cocktails
made
here
a
and there?
strong decision to stop, especially on the cigarettes, because
Yeah.
that's what I slipped back into. It was especially when I'm so frustrated, and also because I didn't have friends at that time, because I left everyone behind.
Right, because your initial group of friends, they went on to
Yeah.
uni. You formed this new group, and you're like, look, I'm not about this life
Yeah.
anymore. I want out.
So I'm down.
Yeah.
I'm back home.
Yeah.
It's a conscious decision.
Yeah.
Was that difficult then, trying to regain a new social circle?
It was indeed. It was, first of all, being 34 years and having to go back home to your mother's house. Though
And
I,
also, a moment to your mom and to both your parents, for because at no point did they say no,
Don't
you
come
figure it
back.
out.
Yeah.
That they were still like, I don't care if you're 34,
come.
54,
Just
come
come.
home.
Yeah.
Beautiful and amazing and important.
Yes.
But yeah, go on.
but when you've already made the decision that you want to change, it wasn't so much about wanting to be with my old friends or trying to get new friends. It was just more about finding out who I am, because I came to a point of self-realization.
Yeah.
And then the unworthiness went away, the unforgiveness, the bitterness, the pain, the guilt and shame.
Yeah.
All these now are we're still working on some of them, but
Yeah.
I had to now work on myself. So it's not about anyone else, it's about me.
Exactly. Did you make peace with your height and the fact that that is indeed a beautiful thing?
Yes.
And walk tall and be like, yes,
Yes.
I can see everything.
Next time I'm wearing
yeah.
heels
yeah,
like yours.
exactly, exactly. And what about you, Koi?
Yeah, similar, because when you walk this journey, you have to realize that it's about you. You're not doing it for anybody else. And you know, when you're faced with people who will be like, okay, just wait, we're just waiting for you. In a month's time, you'll be back. We are waiting for you here. Or you can sense there's a bit of mistrust going on in the family. So it can be discouraging. But as long as you know this is for me, whatever I'll do, let me do it. If they won't believe me, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's, I think now, for me, I got to the mental space where I thought, now it's no longer about them.
Yeah.
Now it's no longer what they think. Now it's about me. What do
Yeah.
I think about myself?
Right.
And that's now how I kept on my journey.
Oh, wow.
And to be honest, it's a journey that you have to make a very strong decision, because you will walk and discover that you're walking on your own.
Right. Yeah.
There'll be no one telling you, good job, because of also the kind of, before it was good job, but then after 2 days,
Yeah.
it was no
Yeah.
good job.
Yeah. So you really have to have the will
So you have to have
to
the
keep
will
powering on.
and the strong decision, because our family members, they really tried.
Yeah.
They really did, and
Yeah.
I know they did their best.
Yeah.
So when it comes to a point where they're like, okay, now this is a power you walk on your own. It's not that they love you any less. It's because of what has happened in
Yeah,
the
and they
past.
realize at the end of the day that decision lies with you.
Yeah,
There's only
exactly.
so much that they can do.
There's only so much family members can do.
And I want to understand now about when you then made the decision to quit, and you went into this program, you went back to the house, to your home. Did you have any withdrawal symptoms? And I'm asking this because I want to know physically, how did your body react to the no drugs? And also mentally, it's such a shift.
Yeah.
Was there any need for therapy, you know, or any kind of medication to help with the physical and mental part of this change?
Okay, for me to be able to transit
Yeah.
from being stable,
Yeah.
from being unstable to being stable, being at Madari Hospital, they gave me some mood tranquilizers and stabilizers. But eventually when I went to the center, it was no longer the physical withdrawals like sweating,
Okay.
yawning,
Yeah.
all this stomach cramps and all that. This time it was more of my mental situation. And then I had to come to terms that I don't have drugs and there's no drugs to use. There's no little cigarette to use or anything. So it was just me wanting to be there. Because again, the gates are not locked. You're free to go, you're free to stay. It's not like a locked up
Yeah.
rehabilitation. So it was all about my decision to want to change.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And you, Corey?
Well, for me, the most withdrawals I had were, I had severe headaches and
Okay.
migraines, which then I actually didn't even know that was my withdrawal.
Oh, okay.
So I just kept on taking a lot of painkillers. But what I did is that I stopped. I changed my eating habits. So I started eating more healthier, drinking a lot of water, and they disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you ladies do now? What do you do? For a living, for life, what are you interested in? Tell us about who you are today, Corey.
I'm in the family business, one.
Okay.
Two, besides that I have a business for floors. I do bamboo floors.
Okay.
The company is called Bamboo Floors and Interiors. And I started the bamboo floors because when I was going through my recovery, I came across the story of a Chinese man who planted bamboo because he was quite a poor man. And bamboo takes 6 years in the ground before it comes out. So for 6 years he was watering a ground. He didn't know what was happening. He didn't know if it will ever come out, and his family left him, his friends laughed at him. So that was a kind of a very similar story to mine, because when I came across that story, it's actually what I was going through. But this man kept on watering the ground. He just watered and watered, and within 6 years, once it shoots out of the ground, it takes 6 weeks to grow to 80 feet long, and that's it. You know, it's a type of grass.
Wow.
It's not
Yeah,
a tree.
yeah.
So you cannot cut it. As soon as you cut it, some more grows. And he's one of the richest men now today in China.
Wow, look at that. And bamboo is one of the products that you can use in everything.
Everything.
From like actual floor work to lip products,
products,
beauty products,
everything.
clothing. Clothing. So you can use it in so many ways.
things.
Yeah.
So that's how I started.
Oh, beautiful. And what about you, Sylvia? What do you do?
Sylvia is positive-minded
Okay.
and changed young lady.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about God.
Yeah.
And I'm ready for any opportunity to tell anyone about the grace that was showered on me whenever I get that chance. I'm volunteering right now at Teen Challenge Women's Center.
Oh, look
and
at
it's
that.
awesome.
Look at that. I want to know how old are your children, and how is that relationship like now? Because I'm certain at the time it must have been difficult to really explore a deep connection with them. But now, what is that like?
My son's 11 years old.
Okay.
My daughter's 10. She's
Yeah.
turning 10 soon.
Yeah.
I'm glad that while at the rehab center, every weekend I'd be able to talk to my kids, find out their favorite colors, find out
Yeah.
what they like. And when I went home for those 6 months, I was able to find out how one gets angry, how one withdraws, and all this, and it's still coming on strong.
Yeah.
Nowadays they miss me. Nowadays they want to talk to me on the phone,
Yeah.
and they tell me what's going on with their life. And
Oh,
I'm just so
beautiful.
grateful for the restoration and the restitution that's taking place.
Oh, lovely. Great.
My son is 3.
Yeah.
Well, he's about to turn 3 in October, so we are still at the no, don't stay.
I'm in that phase too with my little one.
Yeah.
Stop it. If I come there.
Sit, stop.
Yeah.
No, you can say a million no's in a day. But I think for me, the kind of relationship that I'm looking for to bring out of my son is a relationship that he'll be able to tell me what's going on. He'll be able, because I think what we lacked is long time there are things you cannot tell your parents that you're struggling with, because they're like, what
Yeah.
are you talking about?
Right. Yeah.
So that is what I want to bring out, the relationship that my son can tell me, Mom, I'm struggling with my self-esteem. I'm struggling with how I speak or how I look. Because that way, I know with the help and the wisdom from God, I'll be able to raise him in a way that he'll be able to accept himself, appreciate who he is, and learn that people are different. And what makes you special is how different you are.
Yeah. And to appreciate that and to nurture that.
Yeah.
Because who wants to be all alike? That's boring.
Yeah.
So last question to you ladies. When you look back at your journey the past few years and coming out of the addiction, what would you tell someone who's at the start of their first steps out of addiction?
One, keep at it. It is your will that will get you there. Have an outcome that you're looking forward to, and let that be your focus.
A vision,
everyone
and
at
goal.
the end, everyone on the sidelines, the things they'll say, the things they'll do, those are details.
Yeah.
But as long as you know where you're headed, keep at it. Yeah.
Love that. And you, Sylvia?
For me, I'd tell them that as long as they know it's for the better of them, they should just keep on trying. Look for someone who can walk with you, someone at least you're open to talk to. And just remember that you're going through this not for embarrassment or anything, but God has a purpose over your life.
Yeah.
And eventually you'll be able to come out strong and talk about your experience so that others don't go through the same path that you went through. So stay strong.
I love that you're also open to sharing your journey so that someone else out there who's thinking, oh, I don't like my hair texture, I don't like my skin tone, I don't like whatever it is, that they can still find a way to love and to accept those versions of themselves and to still strive to be the best version of themselves.
Yes.
So thank you so much, ladies, for being so open about your journey. And I know it's MCM today. We celebrated the MCM, but I really wish, I really want to take a moment to celebrate the two of you. I can't imagine how difficult it must have been to work your way out of that, because it must have been a fight.
Yeah.
And every day you're fighting, like, no, I shall not succumb to my cravings or to my desires. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Celebrate you. Thank you so much for sharing. And I hope that you loved this show as much as I did, and that you took something from what Corey and Sylvia had to share about their journey. Now, tomorrow, 8 a.m., we'll be back with another show. You know the deal. And this time around, we're getting into Thogori's world. And she is... she is the tech lady that you need to know about, and she'll be sharing her story 8 a.m. tomorrow. So I better see you there, okay? See you there. Have a great rest of the Monday, and see you tomorrow. Bye.